Code Interpretation Number 785. Protection of civil servants' right to judicial remedy and the shift and leave measures and overtime compensation for field firefighters. Issue. Is it unconstitutional under the Civil Service Protection Act? Civil servants may not further seek judicial remedies after the administrative complaint and the review of administrative complaint procedure when their rights and interests are infringed upon by inappropriate public authority measures. 2. Are the Kaohsiung City Government Fire Bureau's relevant regulations regarding the 1 day on, 1 day off shift and leave measures and overtime compensation for field firefighters unconstitutional? Holding. In accordance with the principle, where there is a right, there is a remedy, enshrined in Article 16 of the Constitution. A person who has public law disputes arising from his civil servant status with the agency he serves or with the personnel management authority, and considers his rights unlawfully infringed upon, or consider it necessary to assert his rights, shall be entitled to file an administrative lawsuit corresponding to the nature of the relevant measures and disputes in respect of his civil servant status. Article 17.7, Paragraph 1, Article 78 and 84 of the Civil Service Protection Act as amended and promulgated on May 28, 2003, do not preclude a civil servant from seeking judicial remedies and initiating an administrative lawsuit corresponding to the nature of the relevant measures when he considers his rights unlawfully infringed or consider it necessary to assert his rights. These provisions do not contravene Article 16 of the Constitutional guaranteeing people's right to judicial remedy. Article 11, Paragraph 2 of the Civil Service Act prescribes that civil servants are entitled to 2 days of regular leave every week. Agencies with special work nature may alternatively adopt rotating shifts, leaves, or other flexible measures. Article 4, Regulation 1 of the Regulation on the Implementation of Civil Servants' 2-day weekend stipulates that public transportation, police, fire, Coast Guard, medical, customs, and other agencies, institutions must provide service to the general public all year round, and therefore must implement the rotating shift and leave system. Both provisions fails in regard of the rotating shift and leave system for agencies with special work nature to set forth framework regulations concerning the reasonable cap on duty hours, the frequency of shifts and leaves, or the minimum hours of undisrupted rest during duty days, which are crucial to protect the civil servant's right of holding public office and the right to health. Within this scope, the above-mentioned provisions are inconsistent with the constitutional protection on the right of holding public office and the right to health. The relevant authorities shall, within 3 years from the date of the announcement of this interpretation, review and revise the above-mentioned provisions in line with this interpretation and establish framework regulations that are in conformance with the constitutional protection for the right of holding public offices and the right to health. Point 7 Subpoint 3 of the Kaohsiung City Government Fire Bureau Comprehensive Duty Operation Direction issued by Kaohsiung City Government Fire Bureau later prescribed that duty hours are as follows. In light of the manpower of city's firefighting force and the nature of our jurisdiction, the bureaus adopt a 1 day on, followed by 1 day off, rotating shift and leave major for the field firefighting units, of which the daily change of shift is at 8 a.m. This provision is neither contrary to the constitutionally mandated legal reservation principle, nor the constitutional protection of the right of holding public office and the right to health. However, before the above-mentioned framework regulations are established, the relevant authorities shall, based on the minimum protection requirements afforded by the constitutional right to health, make a relevant arrangement regarding the field firefighters' duty hours and leaves, such as whether the duty plans and the daily duty allotment provide minimum hours of undisrupted rest. This undisrupted rest on duty days that meets the right to health requirements and shall constantly review and improve the provision accordingly. Article 23 of the Civil Service Protection Act stipulates that the civil servant assigned to perform their duties outside the statutory office hours constitute working overtime. The government agency he serves shall provide him with overtime pay, compensatory leaves, rewards, or other equivalent compensation. This provision, together with other relevant laws, fails to provide a civil servant who serves agency with a special work nature, e.g. field firefighters, with a separate set of necessary and reasonable provisions regarding their duties hours and overtime compensation, which may raise concerns about this civil servant, e.g. field firefighters not receiving appropriate evaluation and compensation for their overtime work and negatively affect their right of holding public office. Hence, within this scope, the above-mentioned provision is contradictory to Article 18 of the Constitution, which protects the people's right of holding public office. The relevant authorities shall, within 3 years from the date of announcement of this interpretation, and in accordance with the intent of this interpretation, review and revise the provision, and establish necessary reasonable framework regulation regarding matters of duty hours and overtime compensation for civil servants who work for agencies with a special work nature, such as specifying the shift and responsibility of a 24-hour day duty, 24-hour duty, and providing appropriate evaluation and compensation to those civil servants on standby duty, according to the intensity and the density of the nature of their service. As for point 4 of the direction on granting fire department field firefighter overtime pay as amended and issued by Ministry of Interior later, as well as point 5 and 7 of direction on granting Kaohsiung City Government Fire Bureau field firefighters overtime pay issued by Kaohsiung City Government, the relevant authorities shall review whether the evaluation or compensation for field firefighters overtime service specified in these provisions are appropriate. Once the above-mentioned framework regulation regarding overtime compensation are established,